and welcome to Combat Thoughts. I'm Robbie.
I'm Lee.
And I'm Alex.
We're going to take a deeper look at the culture and philosophy behind martial arts. So, take us back to the start. How did you get into martial arts in the first place?
Like most kids, really, I was bullied from a young age, and obviously in this area, I'm like it's like a mining village. So basically, we're all boxing, kickboxing, and Thai boxing. So technically, I was like got into kickboxing. I think I was 14 or something like that, and I started competing at that. Won a couple of national titles as a kid, probably like 16, and then I wanted something more, so I got into I think it was boxing first. Same again, amateur boxing. I had a fair few boxing fights. Got bored with that, and then got into Thai boxing and went all round world fighting at Thai boxing. But obviously, I was like fighting pro. I think I won 3 British titles at that, like at all different weights. And then I got a European bronze medal for British team, and then I fought in World Championships. Didn't do as well in that one. I didn't even medal. Like I lost to a Caribbean kid on points. So then obviously I found MMA. That was a big stepping stone. But when I was doing MMA, I think it was like 2001. So same again, there weren't much wrestling about or anything like that. Or I thought there weren't any wrestling about.
Especially not in the UK.
Yeah. No, so I like basically a Thai boxer that got into MMA, and what happened was I fought. I like went straight pro because there were no amateurs or anything like that, and I fought a guy called, I think it was Sandy Geddes. He was ranked number 8 in country as a middleweight, and I probably weren't even middleweight. I was probably about 12 stone 10. I fought him, and I beat him in something like 2 minutes. And after that, then it was like, I think that were on Cage Warriors. After that, then it was like every fight were hard. It was like I was ranked number 8 in country then straight away as a pro. I'd 20 seconds in a cage probably, and then they wanted me to fight everyone. And then obviously I was training with a guy called Andy Cooper, who basically a legend in these areas. He was like first cage race champion and that. He was like,
definitely know that name.
Yeah, he taught himself, Andy, to be fair. And we used to train in like a basement in an old rusty cage with him. And basically, I think I had about 20, might have been about 19 or 20 MMA fights as a pro. But to be fair, I fought quite a few big names, really, when I think about it. I fought like Ross Pearson, Ultimate Fighter winner, Norman Parks, Ultimate Fighter winner, Abdul Mohammed, Cage Rage World Champion, a lad called Nathan Beer, Bama World Champion, Daniel Weichel, he was like Bellator Championship winner as well. That were over in Germany. I think my last fight was a crazy Russian guy who was 7 times Sambo World Champion. No one knew anything about him, and that was in Middle East in Jordan. And same again, I wasn't really wrestling. I was just like, I had a bit of jits then. You know, I think I probably got to a brown belt level in jits when I fought him. But he was like 7-time world champion. And everyone was saying, no, he's only had 29 fights. Afterwards, I found out he'd had 80 fights, 5 losses at MMA, and must have had about 200 combat sambo fights. But to be fair, I beaten him and he soccer kicked me in the face twice. So got a stoppage. I thought my eye socket had come out of my head.
Was the socket legal?
No, it wasn't legal. That's what I mean. So I beating him. Right. Up on points, volleyed me in the face twice. So to be fair, a bit of a dodgy show, really. You know, like it was decent money, but it was a bit of a dodgy show. But yeah, so with MMA, I fought all over the world. I missed out on getting on Ultimate Fighter when Ross Pearson won it. And then I think after that, I fell out of love with it and like started learning to wrestle. I think it was 2010. A place called 2010. So pretty late, really.
So how long was your MMA career over? Because you kind of done a whistle stop there.
I'm just trying to think. When did I start? Started in 2001, and I think my last fight was 2011. So I didn't start wrestling until 2010, really. So pretty. I was just like a Thai boxer with jits. That way, really.
And how the fuck did you get away with that?
I don't know. Probably just a good athlete. I did have like takedowns, but it was like I didn't start to learn how to wrestle till I went to Wigan, really. Like with catch. obviously I went to Y Club, which was full of Iranians. So there were some really good wrestlers there. And basically, I got my ass handed to me on a plate, and I went there for probably 2 years. There were Ali Harris there. There were a couple of like MMA guys and that, which were really good and learned how to wrestle. And I think then, like 2010, I went on a seminar with Billy Robinson. I think that were in Doncaster, and I went. I think I went 2 times, and I can remember asking Billy. I says, "Where's the best place to learn how to wrestle in this country?" And he said, "Wigan." He says, "Look up a guy called Roy Wood and his daughter Andrea Wood," and that's what I did. So basically, I think it was in 2012 after my last MMA fight. I got in touch with Roy, and they just started Snake Pit, and that's what happened then. And then after that, that's when I started to excel in wrestling, really.
Sick.
So I'll quite late to it, really, when I think about it.
Yeah, well, I'd love to dig into the wrestling, but I just want to ask a couple of things first.
Yeah.
So how long was it between you starting martial arts in general and you competing? It sounds pretty close.
I started with kickboxing. I was 14-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got into MMA. I'm probably 25-year-old when I got into just straight as a pro.
But the thing I wonder is did you said you started it was a bullying thing, and that's where you started the martial arts. Did you always set out to compete and be professional? Was that the objective at the start?
No, I was shit at sports. You know, like one of these guys, I was just crap at sport. You know what I mean? I was really small for my age. I didn't mature till late on, and it was just one of them natural progressions. It was probably the only thing I was good at. It would either turn into a bit of a bum and go, because where I live, it was bad with drugs, and I can remember it's crazy what happened. I was getting bullied and stuff like that, and I used to hang out with some lads who were nice kids, and they started taking drugs, and we bought some. It's crazy what happened. We bought some heroin. This is God's honest truth. This, our 15-year-old bought some heroin, and we were going to take it. And the day I went training, my brother took me training kickboxing, and then I never looked back. And I saw my friends about 3 weeks later, and they're all on heroin, but we didn't know what it was. We just thought it was because there was no education about it. So all my mates ended up on heroin, and I ended up training, and it saved my life, really, you know, because I'd have probably gone down drug routes. So it's saved me in a couple of ways, you know. So it's a good thing.
Fucking hell, all right. And sorry, where did you grow up?
A place called South Emsall. It's a mining village near Pontefract, in between Pontefract and Doncaster.
Okay, yep.
So there's not much here, but it's
You still there?
Decent. I'm still there, yeah. So it's all right now, but when I was a kid there was nothing, do you know what I mean? That was it. There was just football, rugby, drugs, that was it. And I was crap at sports, so it was just lucky that my brother, I sort of looked up to my brother, and he took me training, and that was it. Because he never used to let me go training with him. He says, "Oh, you're not old enough yet." And that week, as we walked some when he took me training, so he saved my life. So I am a lot, really.
Fucking hell! All right, yeah, so, there's a bit of a change of a path.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? So as it saved my life, I'm glad in one sense. You know what I mean? But lost a few friends through it, so it's crazy.
Fair. Well, so those mates, you didn't hold on to them after?
No. But it's weird, really, because out of them all, I was probably the guy who had least about them. I was basically run to litter. They were all intelligent guys. A few of them had trials for Leeds United and think they're had promising careers in football, whereas me, I had nothing. I'll crap at everything, sport and stuff like that, and I was bullied. Do you know what I mean? I was a weak link, really, but I suppose it's saved me martial arts. I suppose I found my passion pretty young, really. So
yeah. No, it's fair. I mean, it's not an uncommon story.
No.
Martial arts saving people in that sort of way.
No.
Yeah. So the competing side of things, though, how come you started? Did you realize you're good at it and sort of just started? You wanted to actually?
Yeah, I don't know. I just obviously I grew up watching kung fu movies and stuff like that, and running about in ninja suits and stuff like that as a kid. And I suppose everyone wants to test themselves, don't they? And I tested myself, and I was doing all right at it, to be fair. So I just kept on competing. I kept getting better and better, and that's all I did, really. I had a bit of growing up then, I suppose I had a bit of like all my mates were out drinking and stuff like that, and I was just competing. So I feel, in part of me thinks I've like lost out on a lot in my life, but I've been all over world fighting and stuff like that. So I can't say I've missed out on much. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, well, it's a very different path. I mean,
yeah.
Do you wish you had been out drinking a bit more, or?
No, I can do that now, can't I? I can do that now. Yeah.
That's fair.
I'm reliving my youth now. So yeah,
Sick.
no, but it's crazy as well because like what am I now? I'm 41 years old, and I feel at my peak now. You know, like I seem to have been a late bloomer. Like obviously competing now, I'm like competing against a lot younger guys than me, and beating them. So I've done something right. You know what I mean? Probably looking after myself and things like that in that sense. So I'm glad I've done what I've done because I'd probably, if I'd gone down that path, I'd have probably had an heart attack or something like that with my food intake and stuff like that. So yeah.
Well, yeah, it's panned out pretty all right.
Yeah.
So you competed pretty heavily in MMA. Got how many fights? You got quite a few fights in over 10 years.
Yeah, in all combat sports, I've probably had about 70 fights, 80 fights. You know, like different disciplines. You know, like I fought Pancrease, boxing, kickboxing, Thai boxing, catch, Jiu Jitero, just all sorts. Really, wrestling, freestyle wrestling. So just like I've had lots of matches. You know what I mean? So it takes up most of your time, I suppose, doesn't it? And then I'm thinking about venturing down to Lethwei next, trying that. You know,
you want to headbutt someone?
Yeah, so I'm gonna try that. I think like now I'm not getting any better looking, so I thought my ears are bashed in anyway. I've got scars all over me, so I thought I may as well compete now while I'm 40. So I still I compete. I still train everything. You know, like I still train boxing, I still train Thai boxing. And basically, I've got like a shed in my back garden where everyone seems to come to train, and that's all I do really. Just compete with that.
And have you ever had like a different idea about a career, or has it always been fighting that you wanted to do?
Early on, that I wanted to get in UFC and things like that. That was my thing. But I just think my record wasn't that great. I didn't really look. You know, like a lot of guys now, they've got padded records and things like that. I just fought anyone and everyone. If I'd have thought about it now, I'd have like looked after my career a bit better with my management and stuff like that. But that will probably be a bad thing, just fighting anyone and anywhere, you know, and it doesn't do you any justice in the long run. But I'm glad I did what I did, you know, because it's made me a better coach and a better fighter now. So it's not everything, is it? It's not be all and end all getting at UFC, I suppose. So
yeah. I mean, well, I know plenty of guys who've joined. Plenty of guys who've joined the UFC and found out that it's not quite the golden gates they think it is. So yeah.
It's like in this area, we've got a lot of guys who are in UFC and stuff like that, who've been in UFC as well, who I train and stuff like that, and who I've trained. They've all sort of in villages, because there's like 4 or 5. It's called Sescu, like villages. There's a few villages round us, and we had some good fighters. Like we had Neil Wayne at UFC. I teach him like wrestling and jiu-jitsu. Scott Askin used to train with us. Mark Day Casey, and we had a really good team. We had a really good team. You know, like. We had Wayne Murray, who like BAMA champion, Jason Ball, Danny Mitchell. We all used to train together, so we had some really good guys. You know what I mean? But then we all branched off into different areas, and it's a shame. It's a shame, really.
That's a lot of guys for a little mining village.
Yeah. Like
why
you said,
there's fighters.
I don't know, because what we did, because like there's like loads of areas. There was Doncaster, which is like 10-minute drive down road for me. So we all used to train at guys called Paul Murphy's, who were like jiu-jitsu guy. They were him, Neil White, Neil Owen, and Ben Poppleton and that. And we all used to like train there with jiu-jitsu. And then we had Tengiz fought wrestling, he fought Butterbean and stuff like that, because I used to train him. And he fought Fabricio Verdum and Jeff Monson. So if he were like just missed out on getting at UFC, if it were like cage rage heavyweight champion and things like that. But we all used to train at Doncaster. We had a really good team, and then we all like just dispersed and went their own separate ways, which is a shame really, because if we'd have thought about it now, we'd have had one of the best gyms ever. You know, like with knowledge at gyms, with knowledge at fighters as well. So it's a shame, really.
Yeah. And how come everyone split?
Probably same as anyone, everything really. Like, just you get offers, don't they, to work in certain gyms and stuff like that. Like, obviously, I teach at a gym now called Ludus Magnus, and we've got some good fighters there. We've got like Peter Chemlenki, who's like, he's a middleweight guy. He won a world title. Just missed out on getting in Bellator and things like that. Then like Neil Wayne's a coach there. So we've got some pretty promising fighters there, which is a really good MMA gym, to be fair. And then we had Scott and Mark, DKC. We had, I think, Wayne Murray, Jason Ball. They were all there. But then they're like, I suppose they just drift apart and just go to different teams. And sometimes I think they seek out bigger things, don't they? Like going to different gyms, like some go to America and things like that, and just wanting to better themselves. But I thought, personally, like, you couldn't get a better team. Do you know, like, for knowledge of striking, like some really high level strikers there. Jiu Jitsu's good in Doncaster, and then we've got like now me with wrestling. Do you know, like, I obviously had to travel and learn how to wrestle, but like Wigan, it's like an hotbed. You know, like, for wrestling.
Yep.
Some unbelievable. Like, because I were under pressure, there were no wrestlers in this country, but then I went to Wigan and Manchester area, and you don't realise how good they are. You know, like, it's another level. Because I trained at where did I go? I went to Vegas, Mark Lehman's gym, and I can remember going over there, and I was training, I was wrestling with guys, and at the time I couldn't wrestle. I was just a jiu-jitsu guy with Thai boxing. I can remember beating all these wrestlers, thinking, God, I'm doing brilliant here at wrestling. So that's when I went to Y Club, when I came back and got my ass handed to me by all Iranians. Because you get a lot of Eastern, like, Europeans and Iranians and stuff like that in this country. And I think they're best wrestlers in the world, me.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, definitely. There's been some really good guys, especially at Y Club and Wigan. There's been some really good wrestlers.
Yeah, well, I mean, the places I always hear about is either Eastern Europe or North America. These are the wrestling hotbeds. But yeah.
But it's crazy, isn't it? It's crazy. But like, you think of a little town like Wigan, or and there's some. Like, we've got Mick Grundy, he trains there, doesn't he, in Wigan? He's got his own gym and that, but I know he used to do his bit with Roy, and Roy did his bit with Bolton Wrestling Club and things like that. Produced a lot of good champions and stuff like that, like Charlie Bowling and people like that. So they've had some really good wrestlers, but it's like an hotbed.
So how did you get into grappling in general in the first place? Was this purely part of, moving towards MMA?
That progression, yeah. I suppose I started training with Paul Murphy after Andy Cooper, and then I can remember he did a grappling tournament. I think it was, in fact, no, Andy Critton did this grappling tournament. Maybe that was 2006, something like that, 2007. And I can remember entering that, and I won that. I won my division. And then obviously you start seeking out more then, didn't you? So then I got on a few more at grappling tournaments, probably I think I won quite a few with grappling, like with no gi anyway. With no gi, I was doing really well. And then obviously you progress into like gi and stuff like that. So I started competing with gi. Didn't do as well in gi. I still compete with gi and stuff like that, but I prefer no gi just because it's faster paced. So it's faster paced. So I just find it like... I'm not saying it's an old man sport. It's all about your grips and stuff like that. And I'm more, even to like at this age, I feel more athletic, more an athletic competitor. So I prefer no-gi because it's just faster pace, isn't it, and stuff like that. I like to break people with fitness, really. So
I'm completely with you on that one. I prefer no-gi myself, but I've noticed a funny thing where more people train the gi, but everyone watches no-gi. No one cares to watch the gi.
It's weird. It just looks like a ball of clothes, doesn't it? You know, like, both got white gis on. You can't work out what's going on. Whereas like with no gi, it's just, I don't know, it's exciting, isn't it? And I think for it to grow as a sport, I think it's going to have to be no gi. You know, like, especially if they're going to go to Olympics and get into Olympics with something like that, if they ever want to go down that route. I think that's how they're going.
Do you think the Olympics would be a good move?
I think it would be, especially at no-gi grappling. Yeah, I think it'd be brilliant. But it's whether it comes off, isn't it? We all like ADCs and stuff like that. But I love watching stuff like that, mate. ADCs and stuff like that.
This thing that strikes me is that the Olympics hasn't been. Well, a lot of people complain about the Olympics in terms of judo rules. It's not very been kind to judo as an all-round sport.
Yeah. Same way freestyle wrestling, though. I think they've made that boring with rule set now. You know, like you get a lot of people stalling and stuff like that. Whereas I think if they brought catch wrestling or just submission wrestling, with catch wrestling, you can't stall. You can't lay on your belly or because you get crossface or neck cranked. So you've got to keep moving or you'll get pinned and things like that. So whereas you can stall a bit more with freestyle wrestling because you're not getting worried about getting like submitted, are you? Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's like a really fast pace and everything's horrible. Everything hurts.
Yeah. So, well, that might be a good bit to go from. Well, tell me first. So, why did you fall out of love with MMA and decide to make the transition fully to grappling?
I think what it was, I lost, and I thought I'm going to have to work on my weaknesses. Like I had that loss in Jordan to this Russian guy, and I thought I'm going to have to work on my weaknesses, which were wrestling, really. And then I started learning how. Obviously, I'd always done like freestyle and stuff like that. Tried bits of freestyle. But what I found is in freestyle, they weren't teaching you like I think it's most important thing in jiu-jitsu and MMA is like what's called your mat wrestling, but you don't really see much of it. I call it like the invisible stuff. Do you know, like when you create scrambles and stuff like that?
Mm-hmm.
You never really in freestyle you taught to like double leg, sprawl, single leg, like your basic moves, but you're not really taught like how to sit out, how to Granby roll, how to arm drag, how to headlock escape, and how to like escape 3/4 Nelsons and quarter Nelsons and things like that.
It's more like the folk style side of things.
Yeah, and that's what's changed my game, you know, and it's changed my submission game totally. You know, like once I went to Roy's then at Wigan Snake Pit, it honestly it just opened up another like another entity for me. You know, like it's like but because people don't understand it. Like in wrestling, in catch, you give up your back quite a bit. But in jits, because no disrespect to a lot of jits players, I love jits and things like that because I'm a black belt in jits as well. But they don't teach how to mat wrestle, how to escape from these positions. And a lot of guys will just ball up, turtle up, and they'll get submitted. Whereas catch, they'll teach you how to like transition out a turtle position and stuff like that, and escape from it, and that's what I like. It creates scrambles, and that's what my game's about. Like creating a scramble and basically getting on top and submitting them, and then making them suffer. And that's what I like about the catch. And not only that, it suits my body type a bit better.
So why is there the difference between jiu-jitsu and catch in that way? Why is it that jiu-jitsu guys stall out so much more?
I don't know, but maybe it's because like I just call it all submission wrestling now. Do you know, like because like, but like your wrestling's missing. The like your mat wrestling to me is the missing link in between jiu-jitsu and wrestling. Do you know, and I think what it is probably people are scared of making mistakes and getting the back tuck and choked out and things like that and stuff like that. With wrestling. With jiu-jitsu, sorry. So, but then, obviously, then you're wrestling. You get to the point, don't you, with jiu-jitsu? If you take someone's back, you get points and stuff like that. So, I suppose there's always that where if someone gets your back, you're giving up your back, getting points against you and things like that. Whereas you're doing wrestling, but you learn how to wrestle your way out of things, and I think people need to concentrate more on mat wrestling and jiu-jitsu now. So that's why I see it. But then all this leg lock game's coming now, so that's changing everyone's view, isn't it? Everyone's like pulling guard and trying to get saddles and stuff like that. So, but like now, I just cross-training everything. I'm cross-training jits because I think you've got to have a good understanding in jiu-jitsu because I love my jiu-jitsu, and for longevity in sports, jiu-jitsu is the way to go. Because catch just basically wrecks your body, you know, like we're all cranks. But I like that side of things, but it wrecks. Like I'll get in a night and my neck's a mess, my back's a mess with catch. So I understand why people choose like jiu-jitsu, because it's a bit fairer on body, whereas your catch, it's like just getting hit with a brick every day. But I think you've got to understand them both. You've got to understand your catch, and you've got to understand your jiu-jitsu, because otherwise, I think there's like an hole in your game if you don't, you know. So I think everyone should cross-train them both, and even cross-train freestyle wrestling as well. It just opens up a lot of openings in your game and stuff like that. And I think if you learn to adapt it to your style, it's brilliant.
So I like catch, but I don't completely understand it sometimes. Correct me if I'm wrong. Catch is essentially you can submit people essentially anyway. I mean, technically, I think you're not allowed chokes, but that kind of doesn't.
Yeah. It depends. With chokes, it depends on the area. Do you know, in Wigan, they don't allow chokes, but you could put a 3/4 Nelson on, which is technically a Darce choke. You could submit them, which is so any move with an arm in, like a choke with an arm in, is legal. Do you know, in Wigan? So you could like 3/4 Nelson or Darce, yeah. But they see it as a crank. But there's always that thing where you get choked unconscious with it. So if you're clever and you turn it into a choke, you can technically beat them, yeah. But then in, say, like I fought in catch shows up Newcastle, and they allow chokes. So this is why I just train everything, me. And in America as well, they allow chokes. So I think they should allow everything. Maybe, like I like. If I'm going to take anything out, but I do like pinning and things like that, I'd take the pin out if they want to make it a bit more exciting.
So that's it. So it's submissions plus pins. So you pin the shoulders, you win, right?
Yeah, that's it. But then they have like what's called, I've done matches where it's been like a match of 3 falls. So like basically you might have like 3 12-minute rounds. So if you submit them in first round, it goes into the second round. And it's like winner, like whoever wins the most rounds, so like if you won 2 rounds and they won 1, so they could submit you in 1, then like the guy who's won the most rounds wins. But then I fought in other comps in catch, which might be a 20-minute match, and it's just like winner, whoever submits or pins or dominates a bit more wins. You know, like so.
Well, that's one thing that I really like about jiu-jitsu and grappling arts in general is that it's not like MMA where it's like, oh, you've got unified rules and then like Asian rules where you kick them in the head on the ground. Jiu-jitsu and MMA, it's like people just make it up on the spot. I like that.
Like I said, if it were up to me, I like ADC rule set. You know, like I like long time limits, and I think any submission, cranks, anything really, but just take pin out. You know, I think that's what I'll make for the sport to grow, because there's a lot of arguing between what's best, catch, jiu-jitsu. They're all grappling at the end of the day. They're all grappling arts. I think everyone should cross-train, and I think they should allow all dirty stuff, cranks, leg locks, everything. That's what grappling is. Because sometimes you get put in these submissions and you don't know what they are. And I think if you've got a good coach and they explain that like a crank can break your neck and it's dangerous, same with leg locks. If you learn them from a young age and you've got a good coach and you like sort of like say, right, just try and control leg, catch and release, don't be wrenching anything on, and you learn how dangerous they are that way. But you get a lot of, I understand why they're kicking off with jits and like people are getting their legs reaped and stuff like that, like beginners and stuff like that. But I think it's down to coaching really. I think if you coach them and understand leg locks and put them on gentle, they're okay. It's just when you get like someone who's a divvy and just rags it on, do you know what I mean? But I suppose if you say, listen, just put it on and just don't put it on, like just catch and release, basically, I think you'll have less injuries, stuff like that. But you've got to understand them.
Yeah, I mean, I've often thought that. I mean, I back in the day before I really learned any leg locks, I was accidentally calf slicing people and just stupid stuff like that because I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah. Like I love leg locks, man. I love like shin locks, like from catch, and I love like riding calf, and I love stuff like that, towels and everything. So I do really like leg locks, but I like cranks as well. But I think probably people don't like rolling with me because I do crank a lot, you know. But I just think it boils down to conditioning as well, doesn't it? You've got to have a strong neck. A lot of guys don't train the neck as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if you're conditioned and fit and strong, you should be all right, you know. That's where I see it, you know. And you've always got that chance to tap. Where I've like hurt my neck just being choked before, you know, like guillotines. I think guillotines have had choke, but it's probably one of my favourite moves. So I think they should allow just everything.
Yeah.
Fish hooking as well.
Okay, maybe I'm not up for anything.
But
I've seen the way most of these guys train. I don't want anyone putting their fingers in my mouth.
Yeah. True.
I've got to wonder though, why the pin? Why is that the one thing you take out?
Don't get me wrong, it's really good, and I understand that it's a dominant position and it's good. But I think I don't think there's anything worse, me. You know, like say you've been grappling and you slip on mats, and then someone, I'm not saying lesser than you or anything like that, just lays on top of you. They could finish match. You know what I mean? And I think I do like the catch rules. I'll wrestle any rule set. You know what I mean? That's where I am, and I don't mind. But if I won by a pin, I'd be devastated. Do you know what I mean? I'd sooner win by a submission. So I think, you know, like I fought a Brazil. In fact, he was a world champion actually at Jits, and I fought him at a catch rule set, and I took him down with like a double leg, and I got him in like a wrestler's cradle, but it were a neck crank. And he rolled to his back, and submission were on, but he pinned himself. And I was absolutely gutted that he pinned himself. I wanted to win by submission. And after that, I just thought I was a bit wounded. I was like, I didn't want to win by a pin. You know? And I think that's what it was. But he was a nice guy as well. I think from Denmark. I'm trying to think of his name now. He was a good guy, to be fair, black belt. And he'd want Mundials and things like that. But I was just a bit gutted that I won by a pin. You know?
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but surely if you take the pin out, it becomes essentially jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. I suppose it becomes submission wrestling, doesn't it? Like ADC rule set. But what I find is as well, because like another thing. So say, for instance, you put a Kimura on in catch and you're on your back and the Kimura's on, but your shoulders are exposed at mat, classed as a pin. So it's like, it's a bit of a tricky one, isn't it? Guy underneath, you're saying, well, submission were on, but your back's at floor, so you're pinned. Or if you went for an armbar from underneath, your back's or a triangle, your back's exposed at mat, so it's over. So
I've thought, like spitballing a rule set, I liked the idea of if you got a pin for quite a long time, like 5 seconds or so, but also any submission on, the timer doesn't start. So say you go back for Kimura, as long as you're going for it.
No, as soon as you're back, it's exposed at mats. It's on. That's what I mean. So I get the fact it stops you pulling guard, but I have seen guys who are really good at pulling guard and the back don't hit the mat. I've like Quinton Rosen, I forgot his name, but he's a really good grappler. He bet Curran Jacobs. He pulled guard on Curran, and it was brilliant what he did. He beat him, and he was a 10th planet jiu-jitsu guy, but he can wrestle as well. But he submitted Curran. He caught him with like a Kimura. I think it was Kimura, and like Curran bust his rib or something like that as well. And then he caught him with some sort of funky leg lock. But he started off his back, which was like not frowned upon in catch, but it was interesting to see his take, how he did it. Do you know what I mean? Because you'd have thought Curran have dived on him for pin, but he didn't, and he beat him with. He can wrestle as well, Quinton. He's really good, but he beat him with jiu-jitsu, so it was interesting, you know. But I suppose there's always that risk if you put your back to mat, it's over. That's
for sure, yeah.
So there's that. But like you say, I just think there's a lot of, like, especially with jiu-jitsu, there's a lot of submissions off your back, isn't there? And it, like, a lot of guys, as soon as they hit the back hits floor, they're working for submissions anyway. Whereas if you do that in catch, like I say, it's match over, and it's a bit of a gutting thing, really.
Yeah, but so the reason I'm wondering about this is because, well, first, wrestling in the UK Though there are people in some places that are very good at it,
Yeah.
it's not a big sport here in general.
No.
And catch wrestling in general is tiny all over the world.
Yeah, it's a small knit community. Yeah, it's crazy.
Why? Because it is. I do find it a genuinely exciting sport, catch wrestling especially.
Yeah. Do you know something? I think it just needs that exposure. I think what it is, there's a lot of arguing going on. Do you know, like when you go on forums between jiu-jitsu and catch, they're both like, I train both, me, so I understand them both, and I will always cross-train. But they're like arguing between themselves and like just arguing over silly things. And I think for it to grow, it needs to be. They need to stop bickering about it, like saying who's best at what. And do you know what I mean? Like you say, your best guys like your Gordon Ryan and things like that, they can chuffing wrestle, can't they? Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But they're good with leg locks. So like, I think for it to grow, you've just got to call it submission wrestling. Do you know, like it's maybe I think there needs to be more comps as well in this country because there's not many. I think I've done like there's Snake Pit International, which is what they have every year. That's probably the biggest event in UK, and that's normally held in November, and that's for World Championships. And then there's Legit Pro Wrestling, which is like I last competed on that. I think it were in 2015 for a title, and that's a good show. Small, but that's a good show. There needs to be more catch wrestling shows, and I think it is growing in UK, but it's like a slow process. There's more catch gyms popping up in that in country, so it is growing. And I think a lot of catch guys need to get out and compete in jiu-jitsu circuit as well for it to grow. And same with MMA, and same with MMA, yeah. Because there's like I'll see stuff now when I couldn't wrestle and things like that. I see stuff now in MMA how I could stop fights and things like that with basic catch moves. And a lot of stuff you won't ever see in jiu-jitsu. Like I've done stuff in catch and they're like saying in jits comps and saying what's this and what's that, and they don't know what it is because they've never seen it before. They've never been exposed to it. But there's a lot of, I suppose it's a bit like secretive. You know, like there's a lot of submissions out there what they don't show. And I think for it to grow, you've got to show these submissions as well. It's a bit like jiu-jitsu when it first started. They won't show like knee rides and stuff like that. It was a bit hush between them and like their secret moves. And I think for it to grow, you've just got to show everything, can't you? And for it to stay alive as well. Because eventually what's going to happen if they don't, it's going to die out like it did. And then it's going to be lost then, isn't it? Like an hidden gem in a sense. So that's a shame really. But I am trying to help it grow, do you know what I mean? That's why I'm trying to compete a lot, but obviously with this COVID, it's a bit crap. So
yeah, but you know what? It's starting to sort itself out. Well, not sort itself out, but
sort of. Like, because I was supposed to wrestle in Maryland. I think when was it? I think it was January. I can't remember. It was this year anyway, and that fell through. I was supposed to be wrestling Curran Jacobs for world title, but I keep getting calls to go out and there's Curran who's a champion, and obviously there's Quinton who's really good as well, who beat Curran. I keep getting asked to wrestle him as well, which I'll compete against them both. But Curran's been like calling me out for years, so I want to wrestle him first and then beat him, and then wrestle Quinton. They're both dangerous for me, both dangerous competitors, and plus they're a lot younger than me as well. So I'm like an old man to them now. They're like at the prime. So yeah, be interesting to see how we do with them.
So is that your main focus at the moment, like your personal
goals?
Sort of you wanted to grow catch wrestling.
I want to grow catch. Yeah, definitely want to grow catch. Obviously, there's a few like people who want to compete against. Like obviously, I'll Curran, Quinton, and I'd like to wrestle Sakuraba because I wrestled Josh Barnett. I think it was in 2018 as well. So that was a good match for me to wrestle him, like because he was one of my heroes growing up. Like we were MMA and stuff like that. So that got me a lot of exposure because I got a draw with him. So it was interesting. Do you know what I mean? Didn't really hit ground or anything like that, but that's my whole game plan when I wrestled Joshua, to like use my speed against him, because I was outweighed by, I think, about 5 stone heavier.
I was gonna say he's a big bloke.
He's a unit. I can remember seeing him, right, and he had these like those tracksuit bottoms, and Adidas tracksuit bottoms, what all football players wear. I can remember seeing him, and I saw his legs. I thought, God, he's got skinny legs. I thought he was bigger than that. And then when I came to wrestle him, I tried to grab his leg. I'm not kidding, like grabbing an horse's leg. It was massive. So yeah, he's a big dude. I didn't realise how big he was. And I can remember he like collar tied me, and I clubbed him round head with a collar tie, and he hit me. And I thought, Jesus, it nearly knocked me out. Honestly, his hands are massive. His hands are absolutely massive. He's just all bone structure is really big. But I didn't feel outweighed by him or anything like that. I just felt a lot fitter than him. And my whole game plan with him, I'm going to leave it till last minute around and just try and double leg him or single leg him. And then when I grabbed his leg, I thought, Jesus, like wrestling a tree. I couldn't move him. But yeah, it was a good experience for me, that, you know. And I'd quite happily wrestle him again. So
yeah,
but like I said, though, I'd like to wrestle Sakuraba next. I don't know whether he even competes anymore, but just to say I've wrestled him, you know, like, because he's like a big name in catch, isn't he? So
he did wasn't he in Quintet not so long ago?
Yeah, actually, because he wrestled Daniel Strauss, didn't he? Yeah. In fact, Strauss were in Josh's corner when I competed against him. When I think,
oh, really?
Yeah, so it'll be interesting. But he's another good grappler, isn't he? Yeah, but I'd like. Ideally, there's like a couple I'd like to get on Polaris, but I don't know how you get on it. You know, I probably need to compete a lot more on certain jiu-jitsu comps, but I'd like to get on Polaris and have a match on that as well. So there's a few things left for me to do, like probably wrestle these 2 guys in America, Sakuraba, maybe Josh again as well. But I think if I wrestle Josh again, I'll definitely put some weight on, because I think I only weighed about 90 kilograms when I wrestled him, and he came in at 118 or something like that, 119. So it's a big unit, that, isn't
it? That's a big fucking difference.
It is. That what thing about it as well. All I was thinking I just do not want him on top of me, because he'd crush me. You know, like, when you saw him with Dean Lister, didn't he? Dean Lister's a big guy, and he crushed him. So that's all I was thinking. Just don't let him get on top of me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Barnett interests me. He's an interesting bloke in the way he really dabbles in a lot of different sports. Like he did a bare knuckle fight not so long ago, doing some interesting things there.
With KSW. Yeah, you could elbow as well in that one, couldn't you? As well, it were a bit.
But you know what? That's what fascinates me, and that's what I'd like. I like that. That's not such a thing in striking. The fact that when you just go, I'm going to pick these rules and those rules. Yeah. But it always creates interesting matches.
Yeah. That's a bit like me, that I like to compete at different sports.
Yeah.
And I think I'm rather go to Pancrease again as well, because I'd like to win a title like that. There's a few shows coming. I think that's going to start growing back again. Because like I've had a few guys get in touch with me about like competing at Pancrease and things like that from States. So that's another sport I want to try again, just to compete at that, because that's quite a weird rule set.
What is Pancrease rule set?
Pancrease, it's so it's like rounds, isn't it? Obviously, it's like, say it's 3 rounds. If you submit the guy in the middle of the ring and he does and he taps out, the match is over. Yeah? But if he rope escapes, grabs rope, you get like 3 lights. So it's a bit like pro wrestling. If you lose a light. So I fought a guy from Bulgaria, I think it was, and I took him down in corner, and I used it as a bit of a warm-up match, because I was thinking about another bash at MMA. So I submitted him, and he grabbed onto the rope. So then I took it distance, in a sense, just to get rid of that ring rust. You get what I mean? So I wasn't too bothered, but I know if I'd have dragged him into the centre, I could have submitted him, and it'd been over. You know, like, so it's like, basically, if you lose a light, I think you've got 3 lights. If you lose 3 lights and it goes distance, you win anyway, or if you lose a light. So it's pretty weird rule set, but it is good. I think you can palm strike, stood up, and hit with a closed fist at body, but you can head kick and knee them to head, but you can't like punch someone to the face. It's weird.
That's a weird rule set. Like, that might be a bit too strange for me.
Yeah, it is weird, but it was interesting getting my head around it. But I did enjoy it. You know, like it's more fun than MMA. You don't get like you know, like when you go to an MMA match, you get your dickhead in audience shouting "kill him" and stuff like that. It was like really, it was like it's more about the grappling aspect of it. So it's pretty
like
cool.
A jiu-jitsu competition.
Yeah. It's like quiet. You don't get idiots shouting stuff and stuff like that and throwing bottles at you and that. So yeah, it's pretty cool. You know, like that. So that I think that'd interest me doing another match of that, and that Lethwei definitely does. I think that's going to move my next one, Lethwei.
And why Lethwei?
Yeah, I think because at art I'm a typical striker. Everyone thinks I'm a wrestler, but at art I'm a typical striker. I like to hit things, you know, like. And I think what I like about it, you can slam them as well, can't you? You can pick them up and slam them. So I think. So
I'm not sure, but yeah, maybe.
yeah. I think it can suplex. So basically, it suits me, you know, like because I can wrestle, I can strike, stand up with them. If they're a better striker than me, I can always pick them up and slam them and hit them with a suplex. So it's pretty cool. So yeah. I just want to test myself at different skill levels and things like that. So I always try and seek new goals and stuff like that, so I don't get bored. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So get pretty boring, can't it? Stuff like that, certain sports.
And I hope you don't take offense at this, but 40 years old is probably towards the end of most people's careers. How long do you think you'll be competing for?
I reckon 50, 52, me. Honestly, I've got a mate. Well, he's killed himself, but I had a guy called Ian Bromley. He was a really good catch wrestler, and he was competing up until he was 52 at an high level as well. And he had a lot. I'll be honest, he had a lot of injuries here, and it was a bit like Sakuraba. He used to tape his knees up and stuff like that. In fact, it was probably the hardest man I know. I always remember he had his ACL done. And 2 weeks before competition, and he rolled up, and I says he had like this big frame around his leg. And I says, "What you doing?" He goes, "Oh, I'm competing today." I went, "What, with an ACL injury, like operation?" He went, "Yeah." I went, "You're mad." I went, "You do know how bad an ACL injury is?" Like, he went, "Yeah, I'm all right." And he fought one of Damien Myers' guys at night. Ian was probably 80 kilograms at most, but he wasn't a big 80 kilograms. He was like short and stocky, 52-year-old, and he wrestled Yassir. That was it. Yassir was like a 95 kilogram guy, black belt under Damien Meyer. And Ian said to me, says, he's going to shoot in at me. He told me exactly what we're going to do. He says, he's going to shoot in at me, grab my bad leg and start twisting my leg. He said, I'm going to grab his head, roll and crank him. And that's exactly what he did. He won as well. And I thought, God. And he walked off mat without even limping. I thought, Jesus. And he inspired me, and he was like a hidden gem in community catch as well. They were like knowledge were unreal, you know, like probably one of my really good pals as well. And obviously took his life, I think it was 2 years ago now, but it was a really bad loss, but catch community, because he's knowledgeable as well, and plus a all-round good guy. But then he wrestled again the year after, saying, "Oh, I'm not wrestling this year," and he tore his collarbone off his chest, and his collarbone was stuck out. This is God's honest truth, this. And he wrestled. And he won again. And I thought, and it all stuck in my mind, this. And I thought, as long as I'm able-bodied and I can wrestle at 52, I just want to, like, Ian inspired me. And I thought, if he can do it at 52, and it works. He had like a florist or a tiler, and he wasn't like a full-time athlete or anything like that. He just turned up and wrestled, taped up, and it was unreal. But it was just an hard, fit bloke. And I just thought, I'm lucky job I'm in, because I work in a gym for council. So basically, I'm basically conditioned to fit all year round. You know what I mean? Because I'm probably doing 3 or 4 classes a day at work, maybe 3 at most, and then I'm coming home and then I'm teaching my privates at home, 3 or 4 of them a day. So I'm wrestling every day 3 or 4 times. So like, I'm not an average 40-year-old. You know, like, I'm out working 18-year-olds, 20-year-olds in gyms, you know, like. So I think that's another thing as well. I think because I've looked after my body all my life, and I've never drunk or never took drugs or all like that. Nearly took drugs, but never took them.
Razor close.
Yeah, razor close. And I think I've been lucky in that respect, you know, like, because most guys get to 26 something, they have a family, get fat, and then they try and make a comeback of fighting. I've never had a day off. I've never ever had a day off. I've always been doing something. Like today, I've done what have I done? I've done 4 PTs. I've sparred for 40 minutes. I've drilled all day with guys and things like that. So I'm constantly around it all the time. So I'm conditioned. I'm fit and conditioned all the time, and you know, like, and I'm constantly training. So I've been lucky in that respect. So, like, a lot of people say, "Oh, well, you're 40 now," but I feel at my peak. It's unreal how fit and strong I feel at this age. Like, I'm like probably the strongest I've been with weights, probably fittest I've been cardio wise, and probably most knowledgeable as well. You know, like I've been so, and I train smart as well. I listen to my body. You know, like if I feel shitty, like I'm always having ice baths. I'm always in sauna and things like that. So I'm lucky, really. So my goal is 52. So yeah, that's my goal.
I'm 26 this year, and I will try and target something more like yours than the fat and getting family side.
yeah. But it's hard, isn't it? I think you've got to be a bit of a freak as well. I'm a bit freaky in the head. I do train hard. Do you know what I mean? I try and work. And it's the way I see it. Like I look at people for inspiration, like Randy Couture and things like that. What he was like, he was in his late into his 40s when he won world title, won it, and Dan Henderson and people like that. And like they still reckon now, don't they? Couture outworks everyone in gym, even though he's had an heart attack as well, hasn't he? Because he had an heart attack recently as well, and he outworks everyone. So like, I look for people like that. And same with boxing, Bernard Hopkins, 48-year-old, who are world champion. So I just think if they can do it, why can't I? You know, I think it's when you start telling yourself you're old and fat and dropping to bits, your body starts going that way. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But like at the end of the day, you're just a car, aren't you? Like a machine. So I think if you look after it and drive it all the time, but it's when you leave it on drive to seize up, that's when it breaks.
Nice.
And I even know Roy. Roy wrestled up until he was 53.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's Daz Morris. He's another. He's not that old like Daz. They reckon he's an absolute beast at ASW. They reckon I don't know if he's coming up to 50 this year, or it might be 50, but they reckon he gets on that with all younger guys and beats them all up. So I think if people can do it, it's just a mindset, I think.
Yeah, no, it's fair. I mean, I really hope you can keep doing it. Normally with guys, normally I'd ask people what comes after, but you've still got another 10, 12 years. So I don't know if you've...
That's what I think. Yeah, that's what I think. And I think, you know, like another big thing as well, like, because obviously I cross-train and everything, me. Like, I like... My schedule's stupid. I try and do striking 3 times a week, like, you know, like boxing, Thai boxing or something like that. I try and grapple 3 to 4 times a week. My weights 3 to 4 times a week. And then obviously I do like Pilates and yoga and stuff like that. And I think that helps you. And then obviously ice baths. I'm always jumping in like cold showers and ice baths. And I've just bought myself a sauna as well. So stretching in sauna, that's another thing. I think it's just general looking after yourself, innit? You know, like most people, once I've trained, they'll eat a kebab or drink a beer or something like that. I'm like, straight away, I'm having like a freezing cold shower, massage gun on and things like that. I'm like that all the time. So I'm a bit weird in that sense. Don't get me wrong, my eating's shocking. I'll just eat oat because I'm always trying to gain weight because I'm wanting to, what it is like now, I'm wanting to, with catch, because I want world title at heavyweight. I'm wanting to try super heavyweight because like I wrestled Josh Barnett, realistically, he was a super heavyweight. So I'm wanting to win that title weight above, you know. So that's my goal. I just set little goals like that. And if I can beat Curran and Quinton as well, like just all at different weight categories, because I could probably get down to 80 kilogram and I could probably get up to 105 at a push if I ate more. So I just want to win as, I'm greedy. I'm like a magpie. I just want to win as much gold and silver as I can, you know. That's where I am. And I've done it all my career. I've like even like with kickboxing, I've won titles at different weights. With Thai boxing, titles at different weights. Wrestling, I've won titles at different weights. So I want to be one of these guys who can just move around weights as well. But I think my ultimate goal is that super heavyweight title, whoever's got that. So we'll see.
We hope you enjoyed that episode. If you did, please consider subscribing to the podcast and checking us out on YouTube, Facebook and Instagram under the name Combat Thoughts. We'll see you next time.